Hello and welcome to the Kingdom of Honor. I am Jeff. He is Zanman Shane Sabunia. And we are coming live on YouTube and Spreaker. And if you are listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you get all of our content. And as always, I'm going to throw it over to Shane here because I'm sure he has thoughts on last night.
Thoughts? When do I ever have thoughts? Um, as you guys know, our regular audience, we don't usually cover the mainstream WWE or the flagship, as people call it, or whatever the hell you want to call it, WWE. But the Royal Rumble is special. It's special because it's usually the greatest pay-per-view of the year for the WWE, and of course, as I've talked about before on the show, it's the pay-per-view that my brother and I watched every year together since the time we were basically adults up until when he passed away. And our buddy Ryan likes to ask, what's your favorite Royal Rumble? What's your least favorite Royal Rumble? And I've said before, the 2008 Royal Rumble has always been my least favorite for personal reasons. And those personal reasons are I was watching it. It was a couple of days after my brother passed away. I watched it, and I watched goddamn John Cena ruin the damn thing. I know a lot of people loved that moment. I fucking hated it. Last night, I thought was a great rendition of the Royal Rumble. The matches, the Royal Rumble matches themselves. I mean, yeah, there was matches that Jeff and I weren't interested in. I think that from the reactions that Jeff and I have seen on the internet today, that the Fiend versus Daniel Bryan match has been completely overrated. But I thought both the women's Royal Rumble, especially, and then the men's Royal Rumble were very, very good. So, and my buddy James, and I'm just going to start it off, I guess, before I pitch it back to Jeff, asked me how I feel about the result of the Royal Rumble, which was the men's Royal Rumble, that is, with Drew McIntyre taking it home. And my reaction to him, and I'll say it here, was I like it for now, but it all depends on the follow-up. I mean, Drew McIntyre facing Brock Lesnar is a match that kind of has me excited to see WrestleMania. But if McIntyre loses, then I'm going to say it was a complete waste of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he loses this match after all this build-up, they have a chance to create a new star. They did that with Roman Reigns. They've done that with other people throughout time. Now's a chance to create a brand new star again. I mean, yeah, they flopped on some stars, like Sheamus didn't really. He stuck around, had some longevity, but he never became the superstar that they wanted. Same thing with Alberto Del Rio after he won his, but Benoit winning, Mysterio winning. The Rumble has been. Lately, unfortunately, it's become predictable because it's whoever their hottest guy is who they have win the Rumble. But in years past, and I feel like this year is the first year in a long time, that they're using the Rumble for what it's supposed to be used for, and that's creating a new star.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Drew McIntyre isn't a new guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he was a guy that Vince McMahon once said was going to be the future of the company, famously, and then got his ass fired. And but then he branched out to other organizations. He became the What Culture World Champion. He became the Ring of Honor. I'm not sorry, the Ring of Honor, but the Impact World Champion. And now he's back in WWE. Has been tearing it up. When he was the NXT champion, tore it up for the last year and a half on the main roster, and now it feels like it's Jeff and I both kind of thought it was time last year for him to win the Royal Rumble, and now for him to do it this year, it's pretty awesome. And then the steer down with Lesnar, being the guy to eliminate Lesnar, having the second most eliminations in the Rumble behind Lesnar. I think this is the time for McIntyre, and I think they need to keep that momentum going, and he needs to go over Lesnar at WrestleMania. Otherwise, what say that a close loss to Lesnar means a lot too. Not in this situation. Not when Lesnar hasn't built up to this point, and you got a chance to crown a guy at WrestleMania like you did Kofi last year, like you did Seth last year. This is the time. WrestleMania is the stage to create a big star.
Yeah, it is, and I mean they've done it in the past, and I just said that just now, and I'll say it again. This is the time of year to create superstars for the future. They've done it. This made Seth Rollins 4 years ago when he after he won the Money in the Bank and then stomped Roman Reigns to win the title at WrestleMania. He won the Rumble, then he went on to beat Brock at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns, they pushed him down our throat, but really it was him winning the Rumble and then winning at WrestleMania that put him over the top, and so many other people throughout time. Cena was another one winning the Rumble. Austin, I'm going to go back that far. Steve Austin winning his first Rumble was what really skyrocketed him into superstardom as well. So this is when
Shawn Michaels too.
Shawn Michaels is another one. And you can keep going back and throughout time, and that's when the superstars are made, is this time of year. But the fact that people overrated certain matches is just disheartening to me. I thought the Fiend Danny Bryan match was good, probably a little bit better than average, but the stipulation and the fact that you had two incredible pure wrestlers in the ring and they weren't allowed to be pure wrestlers, I think hurt the match itself. I'm never a big fan of gimmick matches when you've got two guys like that, of that talent in the ring. But it is there. I still think that the two Rumble matches were the best part of the show. Both of them. I thought the women's match had a lot of drama, regardless of what people say. And I thought the men's match was perfectly well done, because I don't think Drew's win would have meant as much had it not been for the way that Lesnar started off that match, and the fact that Drew was the one that eliminated him.
Yeah, I agree. Lesnar was a complete force of nature the first half of that match. He eliminated. He was starter number 1, 2 through 14, and then the 15th guy was Ricochet, and as he was trying to deal with Ricochet, here out comes McIntyre. I have a tough time not calling him Galloway. McIntyre. And then Ricochet with a kick to the nuts, and McIntyre with a kick to the face, and out goes Lesnar. I was just kind of amazed at Lesnar's reaction to the whole thing. He kind of recovered, and then he kind of was looking daggers at McIntyre, but he just kind of walked away, and really, I mean, I said to Jeff, I said maybe he will get his 14th elimination, because I was kind of expecting Lesnar to storm in the ring and throw or McIntyre out. That didn't happen, and I kind of love the fact that it didn't happen.
There were a few years ago, I think it was the match when Roman Reigns was supposed to go from first, he was the first guy in as the champion, he had to win the Rumble to retain the championship. When that happened, Lesnar got taken out and just kind of humbly walked away as well. I don't know why they do that with a guy who's supposed to be this unstoppable beast, but I think in this situation, it kind of played up more to giving Galloway the rub than it did to making Lesnar look weak by any stretch.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Lesnar had already been through a war at this point when he got eliminated by it was the Wyatt family, wasn't it, at that WrestleMania you're talking about?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was the Wyatt family, because we had thought at the time it was setting up for Lesnar versus Wyatt at the Rumble.
Oh, that's right. It ended up being Lesnar and Ambrose.
Right, and yeah, I mean, at that time it felt completely out of character for Lesnar. Here, I think it was more like a calculated thing. Like, yeah, I got my ass kicked. I've already been through 25 minutes of war. That's a big tough dude. I'm just gonna walk away, and I'll come to fight another day.
Well, his actions there actually sold McIntyre as being a threat more than anybody else has been in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, Braun Strowman was always that big, huge guy, but Lesnar never acted afraid of him. Same thing with Joe. Joe was another guy that really could have pushed Lesnar and probably should have won the belt from Lesnar, but Brock never backed down. This is a guy that he actually backed down to.
Well, if you think about it, there was actually one other guy he backed down to in the Rumble as well. Do you remember that?
Not off the top of my head.
The brand new North American champion, Keith Lee.
That's right, he did. Actually, after he called him Fat Boy or Big Boy 345 times.
Right, but then when he kind of looked at him, he was like, "Oh, you're the same size as me." And then when Lee hit him with a couple of chops, Lesnar kind of had that look on his face, like, "Uh-oh, how'd I get myself?"
Right. Yeah, that is true. He did do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the men's rumble was probably better than. I mean, that first 14, 13 eliminations, and I don't care what anyone says, the greatest Royal Rumble does not count. First of all, 50 guys. Secondly, it wasn't in January. It's not the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar now holds the Royal Rumble eliminations record with 13. And the fact that he ran through everybody the way that he did, and then got caught with the low and the Claymore, and then literally cowered McIntyre, was the end of kind of the end of that run, which was a good opening to the Rumble match, something that we've never seen before. And then to have it kind of fill up and play out the way that it did the rest of the night. I don't want to say that it made McIntyre look weak, because it did by any stretch, but it definitely gave us everything that we wanted out of the Royal Rumble from that point forward. I did hear a couple of things. One thought that I had on Kofi Kingston is I'm so glad they didn't do that stupid save thing that he always does every single year, where he staves off elimination by somebody catching him or him landing on something, sitting on the floor or whatever. I'm glad they didn't do that this year. And I also heard that the reason why AJ Styles, because we both commented on it, when AJ got eliminated, that it seemed weird, a little bit awkward, that he was thrown out as quickly as he was, and it sounds like he'd gotten hurt. And that was audibly made on the fly, was to get him out of there because he got injured during the match.
Okay.
But I know both you and I commented on how odd that looked.
How odd it looked, and then it was weird that it happened so quickly. Yeah. Well, speaking of AJ getting eliminated, let's talk about the guys that eliminated him. Because, there have been rumors for weeks. He had been denying it. And we saw Adam Copeland, Edge, back in a WWE ring, actually wrestling a match for the first time in nearly 9 years. And he looked in phenomenal shape, Jeff. I mean, bigger and stronger than we'd ever seen him.
Oh, yeah. And
he still moved crisply, and he looked like he had not missed a step. He was just awesome last night.
Well, I guess the spear that he hit AJ with is what caused the audible. When AJ, after he hit the spear, when AJ was laying on the mat, he called out to the officials, and they made the call to get him eliminated. So it was Edge was supposed to kind of do their normal faking the elimination thing, but AJ just went out at it when he wasn't supposed to. That's why it looked like he got dropped. Because he literally, I don't even think Edge really knew it was supposed to happen. I think it just kind of happened. But Edge looked just phenomenal. This entire match, he looked amazing. And the fact that he was one of the final four, the fact that he, caught sneaky Randy Orton trying to RKO him, the fact that he, when he first came out and walked on that stage, you could see his eyes just welling up. He looked like he was proud of himself, overtaken by the moment, just everything about it. And it's nice to know that now I have this feeling he's going to be in a program with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, which will be a good match. It might, I'm so happy that Edge got back, that came back after the way things ended for him.
Well, neither one of us is big on, legends returning. We're not big on basically like the old timer brigade coming out, but Edge is a bit different. Edge is like Shawn Michaels, where he was, or Daniel Bryan, where he had his career basically stolen from him due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
And he would still be, he would still be wrestling today, and would probably have been a big star for several more years if he hadn't gotten injured. We've talked about this before, where we don't mind guys coming back in these kind of situations, especially when, they don't have the mileage on them that they would have if they had kept wrestling the way that they had. It's not necessarily the years all the time; it's the mileage on people. And Edge, like I said, he looked incredibly fresh. He hasn't wrestled in 9 years. If he's back just for a season, great. If he's back long term, great. I think that anytime someone comes back from a major neck injury like that and was told they can't wrestle and then does come back, it's a little scary. But if he's comfortable wrestling, WWE's comfortable wrestling, obviously their doctors are comfortable with him wrestling, then more power to him. I hope he kicks ass in there.
Well, when Shawn came back, it was his back had given out, and he took 4 years off, and when he came back, he was not the same guy for a good couple of years. Daniel Bryan, when he came back, granted his break was only 3 years, but when he came back, it took him a while to get back in the groove. But when he finally got back in, he's one of the top stars again. Did Shawn ever make it to that upper echelon again?
Yeah, he was basically the upper mid card for WWE for a long time.
And then he had those 2 great matches against Undertaker. He had the retirement match against Ric Flair. He had a couple good ones against Triple H. He won the title again.
A great series against Jericho too.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best series that he had. And he won the belt, I think, too, didn't he? At Elimination Chamber, one of those years.
He did, yeah. The very first Elimination Chamber, he won it and then he lost it to Triple H back in one of your favorite types of matches, the 3 Stages of Hell.
Yeah, yay. So I don't know. I don't know if Edge will make it back to that echelon. It has been 9 years. He's 9 years older than he was. He was at the top of. He was probably the face of the WWE at the time he got injured. It was him and Cena. Him and Cena and Orton, I guess, were the top 3 at the time. And he had to leave and came back, and he looks great. He looks in phenomenal shape. He looks like the old Edge that we used to see. I don't know that he'll get that push to the top of the card again, but just to see him back in the ring, even if it is only through WrestleMania, is phenomenal. To see a guy of that talent come back and be able to make any kind of run after the injury he had, it's an amazing story, and one I'm really happy for.
It really is. Even if it's just one night, it's awesome that he was back.
Well, he's taking over Raw tonight, from what I understand. So
he's what?
He's being introduced back to the Raw audience tonight.
Oh, awesome. The other thing I was going to say is, Michael Cole kept saying throughout the first 25, 30 minutes of the Royal Rumble match, the men's Royal Rumble match, that he doesn't want to hear anybody saying how Brock Lesnar is a part-time champion anymore, and he doesn't show up very often because he was in there for that 25-minute Royal Rumble stretch.
What?
Dude, it does not negate not being around for most of the year. It does not negate showing up for 5 or 6 matches a year just because you were there and you put in a great performance at the Royal Rumble. He is still, in my opinion, a paper champion and has been for years because he isn't around. You and I have talked before how we preferred it in the days where Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Bret Hart were the champions, and there was only the Saturday Night's Main Events where the title was defended, or the pay-per-views where the title was defended. And so it'd be great if that was still the case nowadays, and Lesnar would be fine only showing up for here and there if that were the case. But considering the fact that now the Raw and SmackDown brands have become week in, week out superstar showcases, the fact that your champion is never around really does hurt your brand.
Well, that and having
I think him holding the title so often in those situations and barely being around is a really shitty thing. And I don't care that he put on a great performance at the Rumble last night that I enjoyed the hell out of. It doesn't negate the rest of the year when he's not around.
Right, and I agree, and I was actually going to say that too. It's the fact that he showed up for one pay-per-view out of 12. He'll maybe, and then we won't see him again until WrestleMania, and then we won't see him again until maybe SummerSlam. He only shows up for 3 or 4 pay-per-views a year, and it's when that's 4 out of 12, when usually the title's defended at all 12 of them, it's a little bit iffy. Now, that being said, I like the fact that they do that. I just wish they would do that with everybody. Maybe let's go back to the 4 people, and they never will because money is involved and so on. But it'd be nice if they would go back to the 4 pay-per-view type programs again and have a 4-month build to one pay-per-view for the champion.
Yeah.
They never will, though. They never will, though. But, and the rest of this card, like I said...
You know what would be a really cool concept? Is to have, like... Say that you, like, every quarter you have, like, your champion. And you have like, each quarter, you have a race to be who the champion is at the end of that quarter. And then like, you have like a mini tournament at the end of the year to decide who the actual champion of the brand is, almost like a playoffs type situation. At the end of the year.
I'd have to think about it a little bit more.
No, you don't. It's an awesome idea.
I have to think about it a little bit more. And the women's match I thought was...
And say that you won 2 quarters out of the 4, then you would get like a bye through the semifinal.
What if you win all 4 quarters?
Well,
that screws up the whole pay-per-view thing or the whole mini tournament, right?
You can't. There's a stipulation you can only win 2 quarters.
Oh, okay. And then you can't. Then if you have to sit out the rest of the year if you won the first 2 quarters.
No, you just don't challenge for the championship.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Sorry, it needs to be thought about a little bit, but I think it'd be kind of a cool
situation. We might need to flesh that out a little bit more. Anyway,
what you could do is have like a big tournament in the middle of the year, where the winner that gets a title shot at the biggest stage.
So basically, we're going to AEW this and just have tournaments all the time, mini tournaments 4 ways. Is that what we're going to do here?
Nothing wrong with 4 ways.
No, I don't mind the whole tournament idea, though. In fact, I like that idea a whole lot better. That's part of the reason why I'm such an NJPW fan, is because of the tournament style. So I don't mind that idea as much as you would think, but I would have to think about it a lot more.
Actually, speaking of that, real quick, are you aware that the G1 Climax is not taking place in the summer this year?
What? Why not?
Because of the Summer Olympics being in Japan this year.
Ugh.
So the G1 Climax is going to be in October instead of in August.
No, unacceptable. Unacceptable. We need that 4 months to have multiple championship or multiple briefcase contract, whatever. No, unacceptable.
I know, it's going to be really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe they should have done it in May.
Plus the Super Juniors is in May.
Yeah, but the Summer Olympics only is around for, 6 to 12 weeks? 6 weeks?
6 to 12 weeks.
How many weeks is it?
It's only 2, isn't it?
No, it's longer than that.
I feel like the first week is like, I feel like the first week is like swimming and stuff, and the second week is like track and field and stuff.
No, I don't know. Maybe it is only 2 weeks. Oh yeah, you're right. It is only 14 days.
Yeah.
That's where I got the 6 to 12. So why can't they just bump it?
Where did you get the 6 to 12?
Why can't they just bump it by 2 weeks then?
I don't know.
Dumb.
That is an excellent question.
Really dumb.
I agree.
I suppose they probably have U.S. bookings and things like that, and it does make sense because don't they start having some other bigger shows coming right after that?
Not usually.
I mean, isn't World Tag League normally in October?
No, well, November, December, I think.
I don't know. I got all my...
But speaking of things that are really dumb, goddamn Charlotte won the Women's Royal Rumble.
Man, Shayna Baszler coming in looked like a beast, though. She got over quicker than anybody I've ever seen in that last 4 minutes of that Rumble match.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I
just really did not want Charlotte to win.
No,
I knew she was going to, but I mean, Charlotte winning is the same as Roman Reigns winning. It's not necessary.
Right.
You know, Charlotte's already a huge star. She doesn't need a Royal Rumble victory to be built up. She doesn't need a WrestleMania title match to be built up. You know, it's just really sickening that she's going to be on that stage yet again in a big title shot.
Well, the thing that annoys me,
because there hasn't been a time that she hasn't been. You know, she was in that triple threat match at, you know, when they crowned the first ever women's champion. She was in, then she was against Asuka, and then last year she was in the the main event, the first ever female main event of WrestleMania, and she shouldn't have been in that one either. That should have just been Becky against Ronda Rousey. Right. So now she once again gets a title shot when she shouldn't be in that spot yet again. It sucks so much.
Well, I think I think you're right, but I think that seeing now with Drew McIntyre winning, I can't see them throwing Brock against Drew in the main event. So it's going to be Charlotte Becky in the main event. Maybe somehow Shayna weasels her way into it, but I would love to have seen a one-on-one match between Shayna and Becky at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you know, Shayna's recently said that that there's been like rumors of her moving to SmackDown or Raw now that she's won now that she's lost the NXT Women's Championship, but she said she's going to stick around and become a Shayna 3-time. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, NXT, the World Squad, proved to us that titles can move. So, why don't we just open it up? If Shayna comes in, wins the championship from Becky, she can bring it back to NXT.
Why the hell not, dude?
Rest of this card, yeah. I mean, there were a few funny moments in the women's match. Otis catching Mandy Rose was classic.
It was, and then the other classic part of that was when he caught her again, and then Sonya Deville ended up landing on top of them and messing it up.
Right.
Tom Phillips said, "Oh man, Otis is just beside himself." And then Corey Graves said, "He's beside a lot of people. Look at the size of him."
He's beside everybody. But yeah, and then Sonya Deville caused that elimination because she first accidentally hit Mandy Rose into Otis's arms, and then while she was trying to apologize, she got thrown out onto the top of them. So that ended that whole night for them. But yeah, that was a classic line. Didn't Corey have another classic line during that? Or it was during the Fiend Daniel Bryan match?
Nope, it was during this one.
Are you sure? I thought it was during the Fiend Daniel Bryan when he was saying that, because he was saying that the Fiend was getting hit in the top of the face.
No, it was Mia Yim.
Okay.
It was Tom Phillips said Mia Yim just got hit in the top of the face, and then Corey Graves responded,
"It's called the forehead, Tom." It's just a classic line. Yeah. That match had its ups and downs, but I thought that was probably the second best match on the night. I would honestly say that I felt like Roman Reigns King Corbin would have been probably the third match of the night. It went a little bit long. The whole beatdown in the middle with getting Rude and Ziggler and the Usos involved went on probably about 3 minutes too long, but that dive by Jimmy, or was it Jimmy or Jay? I don't know, one of the Usos off the top of that scaffolding made up for it. And then, of course, we got our porta potty spot, which just was the best thing ever.
I can never tell those two apart. So I said earlier that it was Jimmy, but it could easily have been Jay. I have no idea.
One of them has a bigger tattoo. That's the only way I can ever tell the two apart. And they were both dressed up, so it was hard to tell.
I never even noticed that.
But and the only reason I noticed it, I think, is because JR pointed it out one time. I think that's the only reason I've ever caught on that. But that match had its ups and downs. It went 21 minutes. We were trying to clock it. It was 21 minutes, so it was the longest match on the night other than Rumble. The only real drawback and the only part that I didn't like was the ending spot with the Superman punch and the spear on top of the dugout. It just looked clumsy. It looked awkward. it didn't look like it belonged.
Yeah, I totally agree. That you and I talked about it earlier today. That I thought, I like the idea of it. I mean, I think they probably looked at it like, hey, it'd be cool. And you and I even talked about it. Like, it's cool to see them interacting with the dugout because there's so many stadiums out there that are just baseball only. At least the WWE goes to. So to see them have the dugouts out there and interacting on top of the dugout was really awesome. So I think the concept of it is really cool. But it's just in execution, it ended up being that, Corbin landing on that dugout it looked like it felt like there was no impact to it. There was hardly any sound to it. It just didn't feel as big time as it probably should have.
Well, and the fact that
so I'm not going to fault them for trying it because I think it was a cool idea. It's just that it didn't work out to be as good as it seemed like it would have been.
The problem I had with it too was Roman mistimed his steps, so he had to kind of jump over the whatever was in the middle of the cords or whatever before he could actually hit the spear. I think that kind of hurt it a little bit too, so it looked more awkward than anything. But it could have been a great moment. It just really fell short.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, sometimes you aim for the stars and you just miss them. That's not a big deal.
The only other comment I had on this was Andrade and Humberto. And we talked about it while it was happening. It's just weird to see somebody who is considered a super high flyer only really do two high flying moves. A moonsault and a Hurricane Rana.
I believe so. Yeah.
It was awkward seeing that. It seemed like they were in slow motion. We were watching this going. You can really tell the difference between what AEW is doing in their matches, what NJPW does in their matches, as opposed to what WWE does in theirs. Because the high flying,
go ahead.
Because the high flying spots just don't seem to connect as well.
Right. I mean, this wasn't a bad match by any means, but
no.
But it did feel flat because we're used to seeing, you and I at least are used to seeing guys like, well, for instance, we just 3 weeks ago now we saw Takahashi and Will Ospreay in an amazing athletic display where they were flying over the damn place.
Right.
Even the night before at Worlds Collide, we had a cruiserweight fatal four-way where they were flying all over the place.
Exactly.
But here at the Royal Rumble, I mentioned this last night. Is I think that, the reason for it is simply that, these guys are facing off for technically a heavyweight belt in the United States Championship. So I think WWE just doesn't want those guys. Well, they want those guys to tone it down. They don't want them showing their athleticism flying over the place when they're in that kind of a spot. I mean, you talked about Humberto, but Andrade even was, 2 years ago against Gargano on the takeover stage right before the Royal Rumble, had a 5-star classic with him, and part of that was him flying around all over the place. Right. But he wasn't allowed to do that last night.
Yeah, and to me it fell flat, and you can say what you want about Humberto really not getting over with the crowd. He's kind of that vanilla baby face who's really just starting in the business. But he just didn't seem. They just didn't seem to have the energy that I would have thought they would. Like we talked about how it seemed like it was in slow motion. There was not as much high flying as I would have hoped for. It just wasn't. I don't know. It just lacked a lot to me.
Yeah, I also want to comment on you had mentioned to me that you had seen comments that the Women's Royal Rumble wasn't as good because it was so predictable.
Right.
To me, the Women's Royal Rumble was the best match on the card, and a lot of it was because I had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, if you want to say it was predictable, fine, but that probably means that either you read spoilers so you knew Charlotte was going to win, or you only watched the second half of that match, because the first half of that match was completely owned by Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss.
Right.
So Jeff was even sitting there going, "Oh, come on! Don't tell me that they're going to let Bianca Belair win this thing." I mean, he was literally in fear of that happening.
I really was, especially after Alexa got eliminated.
Right.
I'm not a fan of hers at all.
Yeah. So I think watching it as a true fan who had not read any of the spoilers or anything, um, I don't think there's any way you could say that that match was predictable. I thought it was balls to the wall. I thought everybody had a great showing in there that was in that match, except for fucking Santino, and even he was goddamn funny.
Right.
Um,
Cobra
you know,
himself.
yeah. Honestly, Jeff was like, "You called it, you asshole." Because I did mention that last week on the
We were talking about who was going to be the surprise. You said Santina.
I,
Oh, you ass. But the way he found himself in a really bad position between Beth and Natalia, and he just turned around and covered himself and threw himself over. I thought that was just fun.
she.
It. But you're right. I mean,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I know you were thinking. I mean, you mentioned a few times. God damn it, they're gonna let Charlotte win this. They're gonna let Charlotte win this. And I kept saying, I don't know. It wasn't until Charlotte came, or until Shayna came out and threw Charlotte into the ring. That's when I was like, oh shit, Charlotte's gonna win this. Because that's just a classic wrestling WWE style thing. Is the person that's been laying out on the ring apron, or out on the side of the ring for the last 10 minutes is going to be the one to come in and make them, because everyone's going to forget about them. Shayna did a good job of suspending a little disbelief to where I actually thought there for quite a while that she was going to pull it off. But it was at that moment was when I realized that Charlotte was going to win it.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. And I say that as I've made no bones about it in the past that Shayna Baszler is my favorite female wrestler, not just now, of all time. So I was really pulling for her to win the damn thing. But the other part of it is that Charlotte is probably my least favorite women's wrestler of all time.
Right.
And so for her to win it over Baszler and eliminate Baszler last, don't get me wrong, it's a great moment for Shayna. She'll have plenty of time in the future to win one of these things. I'm sure that she'll main event a WrestleMania at some point herself. I just thought it sucked in this spot to give it to Charlotte when, Charlotte is one of those that could always be a credible challenger for that championship. Nobody would ever blink an eye her getting that spot, and I think it sucks when they give somebody like that a win on a stage like this.
And that's why I'm so happy they did what they did with Drew, because everybody thought it was going to be Roman Reigns again. And the fact that it wasn't, and they went with the new guy, really was the right call.
Yeah, I had even said to you earlier in the night. I think it was like right when I was starting. I said they're going to give this to Roman, aren't they? And you said no. I think they're going to give it to a new guy. You actually thought they were going to give it to John Morrison, but you did have. I think you did have. Didn't you say you did like a top 6 and you had McIntyre like 4th or something in that top 6?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I picked 6 people that I thought could win it. McIntyre was in there. Lesnar I had in there just because I was hoping they would pull that trigger. I had John Morrison in there just because of the way they've been treating him since he came back. I thought it would have been kind of a fun little story to tell. I had AJ was one of my picks, and I can't remember who the other 2 were. Right off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and look. But, God, another one of my picks was someone that got eliminated by Brock, too. 2 of my picks got eliminated by Brock, but Drew was one of them. So I'm glad that they went with the upstart and the crown and star again.
I am too. But I do have to also say that if they decided to do this again, I think they should have Lesnar go all the way through it and win the thing, and then the storyline should be like, well, I won the Rumble, I beat everybody that's out there, so I'm not defending my title at WrestleMania, and then be forced into it somehow.
Yeah, so. I think that would have been a much more. Was it you that were? I can't remember if it was on TV or if it was you, but saying that he's done everything else. This is pretty much the last thing that he can do is to go through and win the Rumble. Has he ever won the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, he did in 2003.
Was it? Oh, okay, yeah, and he faced The Rock. Okay.
No, he faced Kurt Angle.
When did he face The Rock? I thought he faced The Rock after. Was that 02?
Faced The Rock at SummerSlam 2002.
Okay.
That's when he first won the championship. Was against The Rock, but he faced Angle That was the famous spot where he missed the shooting star press.
Oh, no, that was his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, it was not a good show. Let's face it. We had two pretty decent Rumble matches. That opening match with Reigns and Corbin was fun. The Fiend Daniel Bryan match had some just sickening spots. Like, how many times did Daniel Bryan kick him in the nuts? I think it's 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, I think so.
And then stomped on his face, and just there was one spot where I remember saying to you, I'm like, did he just whip him in the face with that leather belt? It was just, Bray Wyatt took a beating in that match. And that, when he caught Daniel Bryan going for the running knee and caught him with Sister Abigail was a really cool spot, too.
Yeah, it was. I disagree with you saying it wasn't a good show. It wasn't a great show, but I thought there was enough on there that it definitely was a good show.
Yeah, and it's not my fault, or it's not their fault that I couldn't get into the Bayley Lacey Evans story, and I really could care less about Becky Lynch and Asuka. I heard they had a great match.
Asuka. Asuka.
Yeah. From the little bits I saw of that match, it was okay, and I'm sure it was probably really good. It's nice to know, though, remember at the end when Roman Reigns set up for that spear on Edge, and our internet went down here, and we had to restart. I logged on to Twitter shortly after that, and it seems like a lot of people's internet went down at the exact same spot, so that was a WWE thing, not an internet thing.
Oh, okay.
Because I had a lot of people, there were a lot of tweets showing that exact spot is going down, so.
Doesn't surprise me.
And I think even Imp said his PlayStation went down during that spot too. No, his went down during the Fiend Bray Wyatt match, and he came back to watching Daniel Bryan kicking Bray Wyatt in the nuts like 6, 7 times.
So, speaking of Fiend, I mentioned this to you last night. And for those of you out there who don't follow the show regularly, we're on YouTube now, so we're a little bit more exposed than we have a little bit more exposure, I should say, than we used to. Not that we're more exposed, but anyway, I don't follow WWE regularly anymore, and I haven't in Jeff, a year and a half now.
At least.
So I had never really seen the Fiend character before. I love it. I mean, I love the look of it, I should say. I mean, I think that freaky look that he has with the mask and the eyes and the pants and the shirt. I mean, the whole thing is just great. I'm glad they finally figured out what to do with Bray Wyatt after all these years.
Well, I don't know if they had a gold mine with him in his Bray Wyatt character, and they just kind of dropped the ball on it. They never let him be Bray Wyatt.
That's what I mean. The creative never knew what to do with him. I'm not saying that Bray didn't know what to do with him or didn't know his character, but I think creative couldn't figure out what to do with that particular version of the character.
Which is sad because it was such a great character.
I agree.
And I think what really hurt him, I think they came out strong. They had their run with Shield, and then when they broke up the Wyatt family and sent Bray on his own, I think is what ruined that character, and he could never recover from it.
No, he sure didn't, did he?
No, and they couldn't recover from it. I don't think anybody that was involved with it really recovered. Harper's gone, Eric Rowan's carrying around some animal in a cage. Braun Strowman has been start-stop.
Yep. Well, the Strowman thing is just absolute mismanagement by the WWE creative.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got a monster like that was over big time, and they punked him out to Lesnar 4 times.
Yeah. Like I said, absolute mismanagement.
But I don't have anything else to say about that show. But Worlds Collide, on the other hand, wow. Those were 2 really, really good matches in the middle of that show.
That cruiserweight match and that tag match?
Yes, unbelievable. Both of them were.
Yeah,
That
I absolutely love the storytelling and the character moments in that tag match. I mean, and then they just kick the shit out of each other as well. But
right.
just everything going on in that match was just fabulous.
I was a little disappointed that their meet in the middle was a couple of knee strikes, though. Isn't it normally a super kick by Johnny and a kind of a thrust kick by Ciampa?
Yes,
It
that was
looked-
that was a little bit odd, but you know what? I don't care.
No, I don't either.
I think my favorite part of that entire match was when Ciampa was sitting on the ring apron. He did his little clap and his patted his back, and then Johnny jumps up right next to him. And they did the little clap again and patted their backs. That might have been my favorite part of the whole match.
Yeah, it was great because it was kind of like Johnny like buying into the whole Ciampa thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And also the chant of "Daddy's Home" is still one of the best things. You look at all the great lines and how people like Triple H said that he's the whole damn game, or he is the game in an interview, and that stuck, and he became the game. Austin 316 did his. Austin 316 says, "I just kicked your ass" in the middle of an interview, and that's what he became, was Austin 316.
I just whooped your ass.
I just whooped your ass. And then Ciampa, just one interview, Goldie, Daddy's Home. And now he gets the Daddy's Home. He's got the Big Daddy nickname. He's got the Daddy's Home chant. Those are the kind of magical moments that you just like.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they're supposed to announce this week on NXT who gets the title shot at Takeover Portland, and I'm really hoping it's Ciampa.
That's 3 weeks. That's only 3 weeks away, right?
It is 3 weeks away. Yep.
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
And Ciampa was the one saying that he was the Undisputed Era was falling apart. It was time for the prophecy to end. And we already saw the cracks of it with Roderick Strong losing the North American Championship to Bask in His Glory, Keith Lee. And I just think that this would be the perfect time for Ciampa to get those belts, and for hopefully Grizzled Young Veterans to get the tag straps.
I'm hoping for the Broserweights to do it.
Of course you are, you dick.
Because that just is better.
I love Grizzled Young Veterans.
Yeah, I do too, but I like Broserweight. Did you see that interview?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Pete Dunne just wanted to be blunt, and Matt Riddle was going to smoke them. That was great. That's Pete's happy face. God, that made me laugh.
Can I just say that I hate the name Broserweight?
Oh yeah, I do too. It's horrible.
And you know what? I was thinking about this, and it's like there is no actual weight class of bruiserweight or anything that sounds like that. But there is a weight class called middleweight. So why aren't they the riddleweights?
Because there is only one bruiserweight.
Yeah.
And there's a bro.
My point is that riddleweight sounds like an actual boxing class.
It does, but not a tag team. I don't care what they call themselves. Their chemistry is phenomenal. I just want to see those two do interviews together every day forever.
Pissing me off.
Come on, that was Pete's happy face.
No, it was funny. I'll give you that, but I really don't want to see Red Dragon lose the tag straps to a team that isn't even an established tag team.
Yeah, that's true. I get that. But they did kind of set it up for them to win with the Grizzled Young Veterans kind of downplaying their the fact that they're not a tag team. That's never.
Oh no, I'm absolutely positive that the Broserweights are going to win on Wednesday. I just really don't want them to.
Yeah. Well, it's sad when you can pick it out of interviews who's going to win.
Well, also by the fact that that Undisputed Era just lost to Grizzled Young Veterans on Wednesday night, so they're not going to face them again that quickly, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And then if they lost him again, yeah, that would be the right kind of drama.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that match, the DIY match, if you're going to watch anything from this, I say those two matches. And I only got halfway through the Imperium UE match, so I'm going to have to finish watching that. It's just a half hour. I didn't have the full half hour. So, but I'll watch that after we're done tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good match, but not as good as the other two matches we've already been talking about.
And Jordan Devlin winning the Cruiserweight title. Congratulations, Jordan. He's one of the few guys I think got a title and deserved it.
Yeah, you know, I was watching it going, I was of two minds about it. You know, my first mind about it was, you know what, he showed up last year, got punked by Finn Balor at TakeOver Blackpool, and lost. And this year he lost to Tyler Bate at TakeOver Blackpool 2. And so he really needs to get a big victory on a TakeOver stage. And what better way to do it than to win a Cruiserweight Championship? And then my other thought was, do they really want to pigeonhole him as a Cruiserweight Champion?
Well, he's not really pigeonholed. I mean, he's under 200 pounds, so let him have a championship now. The rest of them are kind of locked up. He's not
that's
gonna,
kind of the side I came down on. I'm just saying I kind of saw both ways.
He's not gonna get anywhere near Walter. Adam Cole is, I don't want to say out of his league, but Adam Cole has proven that a little guy can actually hold the title. And Keith Lee just won the belt, so it's time for Jordan Devlin to finally get some run. And what better way to do it than with the Cruiserweight belt?
Yeah, I agree.
And
I'm just saying that I thought about it a little bit before I was like,
And where the hell was this Swerve when he was in MLW? This is a completely different guy.
Yeah, I mean, did you get the feeling when we were watching Swerve in MLW that he could have cared less about anything?
Yeah, I did. Same thing when he was in Evolve. He just didn't care. But for some reason now he's turned into a really solid performer.
He has, and I like the way that he's able to accelerate to the level he needs to. For that's how I'm going to phrase it here. Is when he was against Roderick Strong in the North American Championship match, Strong gave him everything he could, and he had a great showing and he shined in it. And he just, he looked like the better guy, and it's because Strong, the idea was for Strong to just be able to pull out a victory, but for Swerve to look great against him. Now, on Saturday night, he looked great again, but he also looked like, not like the worst guy out of the four. But he did a great job doing that, where, everybody else looked a little bit better than him, but he still got his moments to shine. So I think Swerve is a lot better than we ever saw him in MLW, which kind of makes sense to me because we both enjoyed the hell out of him when he was kill shot in Lucha Underground.
Yeah. Yeah, this is. Yeah, I agree.
And Travis Banks was absolutely awesome in that match.
Especially the open part of that match.
Yeah.
When he was just controlling really everything.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that match. I mean, it's not going to be in my top 10 at the end of the year or anything like that. Like, I'm sure that tag match is going to be in my top 5 to 10 of the tag division, the tag matches of the year. But it was still a hell of a way to start off the show. Well, I guess it didn't start off the show, but I enjoyed it.
Well, it technically started off the show because you weren't counting the Finn Balor match. Well,
it's not that I didn't count it. I just didn't think it was. Didn't think it was that good. We got a text from Ryan, or a tweet from Ryan that said that was the only good part on the show, and I was like, that's the worst part of the show.
Wait, so, I shut down my Twitter all weekend because I didn't want spoilers. But who said that the Finn Balor match was the best of the night?
Ryan did.
What?
He said he didn't like anything else on the card. That that the Balor Dragonauts match was okay.
I know we say that wrestling's all subjective and everything, but if you didn't like the DIY mustache mountain match, you should just stop at this point. Sorry, Ryan. Just stop watching wrestling.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was a bit confused when I saw that. So
that DIY mustache mountain match had everything. Literally everything you could ask for in a match. It would have appealed to everybody that watches wrestling.
I totally agree. I find it, I don't want to say on January 27th that we've already seen the best tag team match of the year.
I'd be hard pressed to see a better one.
I know I was going to say, but I would be very surprised if we see a better one this year.
I mean, Mustache Mountain GYV was our number one tag match of the year up until, the last 2 months?
What?
Oh, no, you're right, no. But it was still there. It was still there in the top 5 throughout the year.
Oh, you mean last year? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I got a little confused by that. Yeah.
It was because, of course, the Lucha Brothers and Box had a few classics in there, and a few others, and God and Briscoes and everything, but still that Mustache
And the Birds
Mountain.
of Prey against Ishimori and Phantasma.
Yeah, but the that Mustache Mountain GYV match was in our top 5 at the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see this one in the top 5 again, if not the best match of the year. Like I said, this one had a little bit of everything. Had the comedy, it had the the fun little moments between the 4 faces going at it. It had some hard hitting action. It had some fast pace. It literally had a little bit of everything. Good storytelling.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it was great all the way around. And we were texting while I was watching it, and I texted you and I said, "Okay, that was awesome." And you're like, "What?" and you said you didn't have a chance to watch it until today, but yeah, I mean, we're definitely on the same page with that. It was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Worlds Collide was on Saturday night. And I know you told me, but it was like 8 o'clock, and I looked at my phone, and I had a notification that it started at 6, and I'm like, well, I'm going to have to watch that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think you said this, so I'm going to agree with you. I think that of the weekend, that was the best match.
Oh, absolutely. And a close runner-up is I would say that I would go with the Men's Royal Rumble. Then I would say probably that Cruiserweight match, and then probably the Women's Royal Rumble would be my top 4 in that order.
Oh, see, and I would go Women's Royal Rumble as second, Men's Royal Rumble as third, and then the Cruiserweight match was fourth.
Yeah,
but still.
It's still the same 4. It's just a different order, just depending on our tastes.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that you're saying this now about the Men's Rumble, because earlier today you had said the Men's Rumble didn't have a lot going on after Lesnar got.
I had a chance to reflect on it, and it wasn't. I mean, you don't want to say that moments make a match, but there were so many moments that it made the match. I mean, there was the way that Seth came down and the interference by his prophets or whatever the hell they are, and then him standing in the middle of the ring with being surrounded by 4 guys that literally hate him was fun. The Samoa Joe Kevin Owens spot when they looked at each other in the eyes, and even though they're buddies and teaming up on Raw lately, they just said to hell with it, started throwing punches. There was the Edge moment, which I think could have been probably the best moment of the entire weekend. Just pure moments. There was just, and then the fact that Drew ended up winning it. When I had a chance to sit back and think about it, it made a whole lot more sense. And I had a chance to actually think about it during the day today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that argument. I'm still going to stick with the women's match, but I totally see where you're coming from.
And the women's match had too many flubs in it for me. Too many points where I was like, ugh, again. And it was Naomi stealing the Kofi spot, and the fact that there were a couple of people that I had no clue who they even were. And I follow wrestling pretty closely, and to not know somebody is pretty rough.
Fair enough. and I'll say the whole thing with Seth and his stable, stuff going on with Drew with Drew and the stuff going on with the Usos and with the Fiend. It kind of makes it's tempting me into putting WWE back on again, but I've been burned too many times, so it's not going to happen.
And I just don't, to be honest, I just don't have time. I have time for one-offs like this, but I don't have time to invest in it. I'm invested in AEW and NJPW, and that's where I'm going to stay. I'll make time for these one-offs on a pay-per-view. Like I'll probably watch the Big Four like I always do. If I hear of a good match, I'll listen to that or I'll watch that. Same thing with NWA and
Ring of Honor and all that stuff. I'll make time for special events, but I'm not going to invest in them on a weekly basis.
That's actually what I should have said. Is that it's the time thing. Like if I had time to watch WWE and NJPW and NXT and AEW, then I would put W back in my rotation. But I'm not going to spend 95% of my time watching pro wrestling. I do have a life. I do have a wife. I do have a job. So.
Now if we could just get people over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor and get enough subscribers, maybe we can make this a full-time job. We can find time for all of it.
Jeff, wait a minute. What was that address again?
It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. You can actually go there. You can donate to help out this show so that we can afford to bring you this stuff on a week-in, week-out basis. Because even though we say we're not watching all these things, we still pay for their apps. And the time to do all this and blah blah. As a reward for donating to us, we have a couple of different tiers. One of them, you can listen to every show that we have ever done, all the way back to the beginning, when we were just wee little pumpkinheads. And you can also get some exclusive stuff. Everything we do exclusive for YouTube, everything we do exclusive for Patreon is in a tier, and you get exclusive access to that. And there's a lot of stuff. We break down all kinds of things, including we're going to do one tonight. As soon as we're done with this, we're going to break down the last 4 episodes of Jessica Jones. Give our thoughts on that. Jessica Jones Season 2, that is. Give our thoughts on that and what we thought, and that will be an exclusive episode up on Patreon hopefully later this week. Also, by going to Patreon, you can access our YouTube site, which is, hopefully you're listening to us streaming live now. If you're not, we do stream live twice a week, and we're going to start doing an exclusive only YouTube show that is exclusive for YouTube listeners. So when you get there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you can be a part of that madness as well. And then, of course, you can also get to my Twitter through Patreon. And that is at Regi Co-op. He is at ZanmanLOP. You can follow us with the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH. It's on all of the tweets. So do it.
And make sure you stay tuned to all the other LOP radio shows. Tomorrow is... Actually, we don't have a show on Tuesdays, but Jeff and I were actually considering moving to Tuesday night, so stay tuned for that possible move. On Wednesday there's still a few more weeks left of Sports Entertainment is Dead. And then, of course, we're with you live every Wednesday right after AEW Dynamite goes off the air with our Dynamite After Dark instant reaction show. On Thursday is Imp with LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday, we have a brand new show. The Right Side of the Pond, after 6 years, is now off the air. We wish those guys well. They were great veterans for us, but we have a new show called back more of our old guard back together as Ms. Fan and the Mystic bring you NWA Power, the Legacy series, talking about NWA Power show every week. And of course, we'll be back with you next week, possibly Monday, possibly Tuesday. Stay tuned to Twitter for that news. And we'll be covering the New Beginning in Sapporo, the next pay-per-view offering from NJPW. Until Wednesday night, that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.